Hi guys. Hey, thanks for attending this year's Greater St. Louis Association of Black Journalists Student Workshop. So last year I did was part of the education team, but I just came back to help back for a day or two. And so what I've been directing students to do in the past couple years is to actually look at some of my old audition tapes. So I did about three TV station internships when I was in college. So I did one at WCIA 3, that's in Champaign or Springfield, Illinois. I did one at Wish TV 8, which is a CBS station. It used to be the CBS station in Indianapolis. That's the one with David Letterman and Jane Pauley and all them. I didn't get to see them, but I know the elder guy who was there. Oh my gosh, his name was like Mike something, like Mike Jones or something like that. And a guy named Eric and Debbie Halverson or something like that. But they're all really, really nice. I did that for my full year, my senior year. And then the other internship that I did actually was with KSDK 5, where I know Ruthie Zell used to work there, and Sharon, and Art, and a lot of people in St. Louis. He used to work at Channel 5. The thing that you might see a lot of Channel 5 people in town too, if they're high school or college students, is they used to have a program every year where they would take at least 20 to 30 interns. So that's why you may see like a lot of people say, oh, we did the Channel 5 program, because it actually used to be a program and you get credit for it and you would go downtown and talk to it. And KMOX used to do one, but they're all kind of working on it. And we're trying to work to give you guys more instruction with the president and the newer boards that come in right after us. So, with some of these videos, I would tell you, if you're going to look into go into journalism school, make sure just to keep an open mind. Be really creative with your ideas, and also don't really think of yourself as only being a freshman in college. So my freshman year, when I went to Purdue, they had no journalism school. They just had a school called like professional writing and English, because it was a big science school. So the good thing for me is I could walk into the newspaper and try to get an assignment. So my second semester of freshman year, I decided to really dedicate myself to it, and I would probably go to get rewarded with like different like parties and different trips and things like that. And I didn't really take it too seriously at the time, because the time I wanted to be a magazine writer, but that was right before the big like digital change with Facebook and a lot of other platforms. So the cool thing for me was that our Exponent Daily, it was a daily at the time, we used to circulate like 15,000 copies a day. So I would go in once or twice a week and write either a feature article or a regular article. And I actually got used to seeing my name in print, like on the front page. So I did that on and off in college for about 3 or 4 years. And then eventually I wound up interviewing where Latanya went to at IUPUI. And they had a big booth for the Black Journalism Association. And the coordinator there got into contact with a few people at a few stations, because I was one of the only black guy in the whole room. And so they made sure that I could go in for like an interview or two. That's how I wound up working at the St. Louis Beacon or 9 Network PBS. That was a little different from the TV station internships, but that was my first one. And then I wound up just going on to there and going on to graduate school and law school. So I would just say, keep an open mind when you get to college. Don't think that, oh, this college is a big journalism school. This college really doesn't focus on me. This college is not like Mizzou or SIU, where they got 100 video cameras and machines and all that. You know, as soon as you graduate college, I mean, that's great when you're at a school like Mizzou or at SIU. That's good to have the studio equipment there. But the other thing is that you're going to be competing against, almost 100 people. I remember my job, they had 100 tapes for the job that I went to. And I was just was like a assignment manager, producer in Market 203. So you're going to have a lot of competition. And the way to actually get a step up on the competition is to actually go and actually do your student newspaper. So you do have clips. So like my senior year, right before I got my internship, and I was at that Indiana job fair with the NABJ, she said, how many clips do you have? I said, well, I've got 100 clips. And she looked through them and she said, oh my gosh, this kid is serious. He doesn't have too bad of a record. He's almost graduated from school. She's like, you know what? You will get something in town. And also, I used to bag groceries for one of my editors, for like Linda Lockhart, I'll say that, but for Linda's friend Mary, because I used to be on the editorial board at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And so for about 2 summers, I begged her groceries. And she said, "Did you interview yet at that job fair?" She said, "Let me see. Oh, you do have all these articles." And so I was invited down right in the middle of my senior year. I took an extra year, a fifth year out, to go and do that and get into TV news. So if you're looking into journalism, just kind of think about those different things that you want to be looking for. The other word that I would give to students too is to, when you go to these TV stations, you're going to be entering the real workforce. So you're going to see people who are mean, people who are nice, people who are stuck up, people who aren't. I mean, I had, I'm not going to say it was more like ageism, it wasn't racism, but they had people were like, "Oh, we're busy, we're trying to feed our kids and all this stuff." And a lot of the reporters in every single station said that it's a problem that we have to send new journalists out and they don't get to actually report or shoot the video or write the article, at the TV stations. So one thing that I think was going to be beneficial to you guys that I tell every class is to actually go and actually do your student newscast first, so that way you'll have enough time to actually like edit your video, put together the packages, and then you can come with those tapes no matter how bad those packages are. You can just go sit down at the desk and then somebody will help you edit them. And I don't know what they're going to do now. I guess at Channel 4 is where they're going to have the new internship program at, or maybe us at NABJ. But you're going to have to shoot 2 stand-ups, and it doesn't have to be fancy or anything. But you do want to get 2 stand-ups in. Like, for example, I couldn't get a tape made at any of my other TV station internships because I had to get my application ready for graduate school, and it required that they had the news director sign or for me to write a fake article. So by the time I would come into Wish TV at like noon, I know the night side reporter was Adrienne Broaddus, and she's at CNN now. It's been a long time ago, but she's the only night side reporter. But she said, "Ray, you got to get your portfolio done. You got to get your homework." She's like, "Ray, I'm going to Anderson, Indiana. I can't take you with me. I got stuff I got to do. I got a deadline to do." And so I would come in and I kind of fell behind, and I was on my way to graduate, and I'm like thinking, man, I've only got, the Channel 5 audition tape, which was fine. So I had them kind of edit that. But that's all to say is when you get in these newsrooms, you have to be ready to go, and you have to be willing to actually come there with a little bit of preparedness, because you got to have at least 1 or 2 clips done. That way, all they got to do is shoot a stand-up for you. And make sure when you go at the station, make sure you do a walk and talk stand-up. Always do a walk and talk. A lot of stations do not do that anymore. But when I saw all these audition tapes, I didn't really work in TV news for that long. But when I was there, they would always have, I would see like a lot of stand-ups from like all over the place. So, I mean, it was like Fox in Chicago. I know I interviewed at the station in Dothan, Alabama. It was like WTHN and what is it, like WGNs in Chicago, all these like local markets. And they all had interns, and they're all looking for the job that I wanted. So a lot of them didn't have the walk and talk stand-ups, but I had the walk and talk stand-up like Justin did. Justin Andrews is working at Channel 4, and I know he did it at Channel 5 in Kansas City, but they made him do one as well. And that gives the director, even if you're horrible on air, it gives them just an idea of how can the news director, how can I develop this reporter? What can this reporter take and what can he learn? My news director told us in our smaller market. So she had all the new reporters sit down and watch all 100 of the tapes, which was really good, even if we're not going to be on TV news now, to kind of just know who you're going against and to say, okay, this is how I can make myself unique. Always remember to make yourself unique, like they said during the workshop. So those are just some of my tidbits. And I also went to law school, too, to be a lawyer a few years later. I know Latanya and then everybody at CAMOV last weekend was talking about doing we're talking about a lot of police scanner stuff that you'll get over the radio. So when you're working in local news, you'll cover a lot of like crime beat kind of stories and legal stories. And so sometimes it'll become really intimidating because you'll have these lawyers, they'll email you or they'll pitch you an idea. Even in our market, it was real small. Every once in a while, they'll pitch you an idea. And when I went to law school, the writing was exactly opposite of journalism. It's got to be really long. You got to look up all these statutes. You have to compare and contrast the text. But like Latanya and everybody else said for local news, it's got to be 30 seconds to a minute, which is actually like a one page paper, but it's got to be short and to the point. And sometimes in those legal documents, they have a lot more. They have a lot more um, stuff that's needed that you really don't need for your story, because usually you're working in that environment. You just have to get what happened, which is the action, and then whether the person died or not. You don't have a lot of time to go into whether the cop said a misstatement and tampered with evidence and didn't arrest him and flipped over. I mean, some older reporters will do that in some markets, and to try to make it seem fancy, that I realize now that I went through law school. They'll try to do that, or some investigative reporters, but really that doesn't matter. Your story is just to tell the news, and it'll get easier too. Like I know I was seeing Jasmine interview with a couple of you guys, and just remember, once you get into it, it'll be really easy. It's like Walmart. You gotta get in at the 5 o'clock news. You gotta tell the news every day, so it'll be like this. And usually a lot of stuff now will be VJ work, but the good thing about your generation now is that you actually have cameras you can practice with. See, we didn't. So this was all like new to me until I started going out in the field and shooting myself. So that's one thing to think about. But as far as becoming a lawyer, I would encourage you to become a lawyer and go to law school. I went to SIU about 5 years after I left journalism. If you really want to do law, I think that it's a good field to enter into if you've got the funds. I had a scholarship through journalism to help complete my bachelor's degree. I would suggest it then, but I wouldn't pay full price for law school. So even if that means you have to wait a few years and you don't have the funds to actually do that, then I would just wait, because I know SLE was like $200,000, but they do give out conditional scholarships. And through these different writing lessons, take these writing lessons from the journalist, and also you're going to also have to apply them to everything that pertains to law school. With the LSAT, you still got to read, you still got to comprehend. At the end of every LSAT, and they still do this, you got to write an essay, and they will look at that essay. Like, my essay was neatly typed and performed, and I got the extra bonus point that helped me get into law school, because my essay was like a news report, and it was like that. It was done. And then once you actually get into law school, some of the different subjects you'll have to do will kind of be like little news stories. So when you see some of these teachers are talking about make the writing your own, show us, don't tell us, like be like really energetic with the camera. With some subjects in law, you're going to really have to do that. Like, for example, my first year I took like real estate law, or we call it property law. But I got an F on the first semester exam. I was at the bottom of the class with the come see me. And the teacher, he's a judge in DC, Ryan, and he said, Ray, you're writing like a news story. You're trying to tell me you didn't write any of the rules in. You got these accusatory facts, because I worked in television news. And he said, you worked in news. He said, you do got to write the rules, so write to the rule. I said, oh, okay, and then I got it. And it was so funny. I actually wound up getting one of the top 10 scores in property law, because I actually got panicked because there were 100 people in this essay, 100 people in this exam. You only get one exam for the whole year in every subject. So you take 5 subjects your first year in law school, and you have 5 exams, and that's it. And then you make it onto your second year. Some law schools do flunk out and some don't. So that'll become important if you do want to become a lawyer. But I remember I had one of my friends, he works in Champaign, and he was a lot older than me. I was like in my late 20s, and he's in his late 30s, so I thought he was way older than me. And he panicked. He said, oh my gosh, my computer blanked out. We're like an hour into this exam. Mind you, that one exam is the only grade you'll get, and you'll see all these YouTube and lawyer shows talk about that. This is like May 15th. His computer blanks out. He starts panicking. I start panicking. And I said, oh God, I'm going to fail at law school. That's going to say, Ray, you're looking at your table. I thought to myself, okay, so if I'm back in the newsroom, back at Sinclair Broadcasting, from the Illinois Public Radio, at the Purdue Exponent, what are you going to do? You got a deadline. I worked as a daily reporter. I said, write to the story. So what I wound up doing by accident was writing 3 news stories for the 3 essays by accident. And one was on a landlord-tenant. And I accidentally, once I saw it in the next year to kind of go over my writing for the bar exam with the professor, he had looked at me and he said, Ray, did you rip this off of one of your old news stories? I seriously, I swear, had written this real estate like fake case for our final property law exam. It was just like a story, an old story I had written for the web. I'm like this. she sued the landlord and killed the child and all this stuff. And so that's really funny. But those skills actually really came in handy to become a lawyer. So don't think about some of these classes as you're only going to be a journalist, because you will may have to go into teaching and corporate communications and web design, and public relations is a really huge field now. I know a lot of companies now, they're actually having their own social media departments, and so that'll be really good for you guys to still learn these skills. And so you definitely need to pay attention to the skills and how you want to tell the stories, because it will help you out later on, especially when you get to law school. You're going to have those really good writing skills, because some of the students that flunked out of our school, they didn't have the necessary skills to go on. So I think 5 people flunked out my first year at our school because they didn't have that experience of working in a newsroom, or working with the chief judge, or even working in the military, like my best friends. They were really young and out of college, and so that'll help you stand out from the pack. If you do develop good journalism skills, you will be able to get into law school or be a teacher or do whatever. Because in the field of journalism, you got to interview somebody every day. You got to read the rule and write the rule. So this is just a quick video about advice about law school. Don't pay full price for it. I don't think it's worth it if you pay full price. The market is oversaturated right now with lawyers, and I'm not licensed, a lot of people who don't have licenses at all. And it's very hard to find a law-related job. I did, fortunately. So I would keep those things in mind. And if you eventually do go to law school and you want to take the LSAT but you failed a few times, just keep doing it. You'll get better at it, even if it takes you 10 years. I know one person who it took her 10 years to get the LSAT score. She needed to get into law school. It's so expensive. I said, she was in her late 40s too. Go ahead, do it. So I hope this advice helps. And I'm going to add this to the website near my video. So take a look at all the newscast videos, and you can even go through them with like Justin or Gab, because mine are like all student videos. They're not that good. They can point out good things and bad things you might want to do. All right. Well, thanks for attending this workshop. I hope it goes well. Bye.